It takes a special kind of badassery to win a war against a bigger, better-equipped enemy by hit-and-run tactics in the jungle or mountains. Today, we look at the top countries with the most aggressive and effective guerrilla warfare movements in history. Number 1, Colombia. Guerrilla Group as FARC, Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, ELN. Years active, 1964. Present, though significantly weakened since 2016 peace deal. Tactics, ambushes, kidnappings, bombings, jungle warfare, drug trafficking. Why it's notable. This is one of the longest-running guerrilla wars in the world. The conflict in Colombia has been an often brutal, Marxist-inspired struggle between various left-wing guerrilla groups and the Colombian government. As recently as 2016, there were around 8,000 FARC guerrillas in the jungle. Although they signed a peace deal, new rebel groups have taken up arms. It was once said that to fight the FARC, you had to be willing to get your hands dirty. Indeed, the FARC rebels grew stronger during the 20th century as they took advantage of Colombia's porous borders and mountainous terrain. At its height, FARC controlled vast territories deep in the jungle where they built their own schools, courts, and even ran a parallel economy based on illegal crops like coca, the raw material for cocaine. The group thrived due to its intimate knowledge of the jungle and ability to wage hit-and-run style warfare against the Colombian military. They would routinely ambush isolated army units, then melt away into the dense foliage, carrying off supplies and hostages. Kidnapping high-profile targets for ransom was also common. In addition to regular soldiers, FARC fighters also maintained an elite unit called the Bloque Urbano, which carried out daring urban attacks and assassinations. Bombs planted in public spaces were a common tactic, as were drive-by shootings of government officials. The FARC's links to the drug trade made them extremely wealthy, and they used their resources to purchase anti-aircraft missiles and attack helicopters to directly engage the Colombian Air Force. Despite being driven back into the jungle, the FARC remained a serious threat for decades. Only in recent years has the Colombian state started to exert more control over former rebel territory. But the scars of the conflict remain. The country is still among the most dangerous in the world for those who dare to defy the cartels. While the FARC may no longer be a significant force, Colombia's history of guerrilla warfare shows no signs of ending anytime soon. Number 2, Vietnam. Guerrilla groups. Viet Cong, NLF. Years active, 1955, 1975, Vietnam War. Tactics. Hit and run, booby traps, tunnel networks, civilian disguise. Why it's notable. Few guerrilla forces have achieved a more decisive victory than the North Vietnamese and Viet Cong. Their triumph over South Vietnam and its American backers is the stuff of legend. The Viet Cong were a decentralized network of guerrilla units spread across southern Vietnam. They were supported by the North Vietnamese army but were largely composed of local villagers and irregular fighters. Despite lacking modern weapons and heavy equipment, the VC proved more than a match for the U.S. military. Utilizing hit-and-run tactics and elaborate tunnel networks, they inflicted heavy casualties on American forces while suffering relatively light losses themselves. By the end of the war in 1975, the VC had defeated two of the world's superpowers. This level of success was made possible by the tremendous resilience and tenacity of the Vietnamese people. After each setback, they regrouped and fought another day. For the VC, winning the hearts and minds of the population was crucial to their strategy. They operated with the support of local civilians who provided food, intelligence, and even shelter. This made it nearly impossible for the Americans to distinguish VC guerrillas from ordinary Vietnamese citizens. The Viet Cong ultimately triumphed through sheer determination and battlefield cunning. They showed the world that guerrilla tactics can overcome conventional military might when guided by an unwavering will to resist. Number 3, Afghanistan. Guerrilla groups, Mujahideen, against USSR, Taliban, post-2001. Years active, 1979 present. Tactics, mountain ambushes, IEDs, suicide attacks. Why it's notable, Afghan guerrillas are among the most tenacious fighters in the world. First, they forced the Soviets out of Afghanistan in the 1980s, and now they've resisted NATO and U.S. forces for 2 decades. Despite being heavily outgunned and outmanned, Afghan insurgents have exacted a heavy toll on foreign invaders. Utilizing knowledge of the rugged terrain, Afghan guerrillas launch effective ambushes from mountain positions. They use IEDs to great effect against convoys. And in recent years, suicide attacks have also been employed. Some view the current Taliban insurgency as the continuation of the anti-Soviet jihad, making this the longest-running guerrilla war in history. The Afghan people have shown they will not be intimidated or defeated, no matter how much firepower their enemies bring to bear. What began as a low-level insurgency has evolved into a full-blown conventional conflict. Now the Taliban fields an army that rivals the Afghan national military in size. If NATO and the U.S. cannot prevail against the Taliban, it will be one of the most stunning examples of guerrilla victory ever seen. Whether the Afghan army can defeat the Taliban remains to be seen. But one thing is for sure, the fighting will be fierce and costly for both sides. The coming years will likely be decisive for Afghanistan. If the Taliban wins, it will show that guerrilla tactics continue to be highly effective. A NATO victory would demonstrate that conventional forces can still prevail against determined insurgents. Either outcome could have major implications for conflicts around the world. 4. Cuba. Guerrilla Group S. Fidel Castro's 26th of July movement. Years active. 1953-1959. Tactics. Jungle-based guerrilla resistance in the Sierra Maestra Mountains. Why it's notable. This small band of rebels led by Fidel Castro ousted a U.S.-backed dictator, transforming Cuba into a communist state that still exists today. The Cuban Revolution was made possible by Castro's guerrilla fighters who waged a relentless campaign against Batista's tyrannical regime. Though initially driven from the cities by superior government forces, Castro and his men found refuge in the Sierra Maestra Mountains. There they built a base of operations and launched hit-and-run attacks against Batista's troops. Despite lacking supplies and facing constant danger, the rebels held firm. They were fueled by the ideals of social justice and support from the local peasantry. As the conflict dragged on, the guerrillas gained momentum. They proved impossible to wipe out completely, and their ranks swelled with new recruits. By 1959, their military victories were irresistible. Batista fled the country and the revolution was complete. Within 2 years, Cuba became a communist state under the control of Castro's 26th of July movement. The Cuban Revolution remains one of the most significant examples of successful guerrilla warfare in Latin America. It overturned an oppressive regime with minimal outside support and established a socialist state that continues to defy U.S. attempts to contain it. Fidel Castro's legacy as a revolutionary hero is cemented in Cuban history despite the revolution's controversial outcome. The Cuban people demonstrated incredible resilience and bravery in overthrowing Batista's dictatorship. Their story is a testament to the power of guerrilla tactics when employed by a determined populace. Now check out the deadliest warriors in history or watch this video instead.